The night began with a sound that did not belong. Emily felt it before she heard it, a low shake in the walls, a sense that sleep was already slipping away. She lay on her back, eyes open, watching shadows move across the ceiling as a car door slammed outside. Jake was home. That alone was enough to change the air in the house. Footsteps rushed up the porch. Voices followed, loud and careless. Jake laughed, sharp and fast, and another voice joined him, deeper, rougher, Ryan. Emily closed her eyes and counted to 10, hoping the noise would fade. It never did. The front door banged shut. Music started almost at once. Not loud enough to be rude, but loud enough to crawl through the floor and into her chest. Emily turned on her side and pulled the blanket higher. Mark should have been here. When Mark was home, the boys behaved, or at least tried. But Mark was 3 states away, working late again, chasing a future that always felt just out of reach. Emily checked the time. 11:47 p.m. She told herself it was just one night. She could handle it. She always did. Laughter burst out again, followed by the scrape of a chair. Something fell. Jake cursed. Ryan laughed harder. Emily's jaw tightened. She was not angry at the noise. She was angry at what the noise reminded her of, that this house was not fully hers. That she was still learning how to belong inside it. She had married Mark with hope, not fear. She had believed love would smooth the hard edges. Jake had been 14 then, quiet and distant, polite in the way that meant nothing. Emily tried from the start. She cooked meals Jake liked. She showed up to games. She listened more than she spoke. Still, there was a wall between them, solid and cold. Downstairs, the music stopped. For one small moment, Emily thought it was over. Then voices rose again, this time sharp, filled with tension, not playful now. Something heavy sat in Jake's words. Emily sat up in bed, her heart beating faster. She did not mean to listen, but the walls were thin, and the silence around her made every sound louder. "I'm sick of this place," Jake said. Ryan answered, softer. "It's just for now." "You don't get it," Jake snapped. "None of you do." Emily stood and slipped on her sweater. Her feet moved without a plan, carrying her to the bedroom door. She opened it just enough to hear more. Her chest felt tight. She had heard this tone before. It came from hurt, not anger. Ryan spoke again. "Your dad loves you, man." Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. "He's never here." Emily stepped back and closed the door. Guilt washed over her, thick and sudden. She leaned against the wall, eyes closed. She had never wanted to replace anyone. She had only wanted to help. Somehow, that had not been enough. The noise grew louder again. Music returned, faster now, as if they were trying to drown out the thoughts they did not want to face. Emily went back to bed, but did not lie down. She sat at the edge, hands folded, breathing slow. Her phone lit up. A message from Daniel. Emily stared at the screen. Daniel was an old friend from work, someone who had known her before marriage, before this house, before the careful way she measured every word. They had not spoken much lately. Life had gotten busy. Still seeing his name made something warm stir in her chest. Still awake? The message read. Emily hesitated. She did not want to cross a line. She did not want to invite trouble. But she was lonely, and the night was long, and sleep felt impossible. Yeah, she typed, "rough night." The typing bubble appeared, then vanished, then returned. "Want to talk?" Daniel wrote. Emily did not answer right away. Downstairs, Jake shouted something she could not hear. Ryan replied with laughter that sounded forced. Emily felt stuck between 2 worlds, the one she had chosen and the one she was slowly losing herself in. She set the phone down without replying. The clock ticked forward. Midnight passed. 1 a.m. came close. Emily lay back and stared at the ceiling again, tracing cracks she had never bothered to fix. Each line felt like a path not taken, a question unanswered. Her thoughts drifted to Mark. She imagined him in a hotel room, tired, alone in his own way. They talked every day, but words could not fill the empty space between them. They had stopped sharing small things. Everything felt serious now, planned. Heavy. Another loud burst of laughter broke her thoughts. Emily sat up again, this time with a sigh that came from deep inside. She stood and walked to the stairs, not to argue, not to scold. Just to remind them she existed. Halfway down, she stopped. Jake's voice carried clearly. "I don't belong here." Ryan did not answer right away. When he did, his voice was calm. "You belong somewhere. Maybe you just haven't found it yet." Emily felt tears sting her eyes. She turned and went back to her room before they could see her. She did not trust herself to speak. Back in bed, she picked up her phone. "I can talk." She typed to Daniel. "Just not on the phone." "That's okay," he replied. "I'm here." They exchanged a few simple messages. Nothing deep. Nothing wrong. Just words about work, about how tired they both were, about how strange life could feel at night. Still, the quiet support steadied her. Downstairs, the noise shifted again. Footsteps moved closer, then away. A door slammed. Another opened. Emily's body ached with tiredness, but her mind refused to slow. She wondered if Jake saw her as the reason his father changed. She wondered if she had failed him without knowing how. She wondered how many nights like this she could survive before something inside her broke. At 2:30 a.m. The music finally stopped. The house fell into a silence so deep it rang. Emily held her breath, waiting for another sound. None came. Sleep did not follow. She lay still, eyes open as the night stretched thin. Her phone buzzed once more. "Try to rest," Daniel wrote. "Tomorrow will be clearer." Emily smiled faintly and set the phone aside, turned toward the window where the sky was beginning to lighten just a little. Dawn was coming, whether she was ready or not. Downstairs, a floorboard creaked. Jake moved quietly now, like someone who finally understood how loud he had been. Emily listened until the sound faded. That night had taken sleep from her. But it had given her something else, truths she could no longer ignore. Questions she could not push away. As the first light touched the room, Emily knew this was only the beginning. Morning arrived without kindness. Ellie did not wake so much as she gave up on sleep. Her eyes burned, her head felt heavy, and her body moved on habit alone. The house looked the same, but it felt changed, like something unseen had shifted during the night. She stood in the kitchen, staring at the coffee machine while it worked. The sound was steady and calm, unlike the chaos from hours before. Outside, the sky was pale blue, the kind that promised warmth later in the day. Emily wrapped both hands around her mug and took a slow sip. The coffee tasted bitter, but it grounded. Her footsteps sounded on the stairs. Emily stiffened, then relaxed when she saw Jake. He looked different in daylight. His shoulders were low, his face tired, his eyes dull from a night without rest. He stopped when he saw her, as if unsure whether to stay or leave. "Morning," he said quietly. "Morning," Emily replied. They stood there, the space between them full of things unsaid. Jake opened the fridge, stared inside, then closed it. Again. He leaned against the counter, running a hand through his hair. "We didn't mean to keep you up," said. The words surprised her. Emily studied his face. There was no challenge in his eyes, no sarcasm, just honesty, raw and unguarded. "I know," she said. "I could hear you were dealing with stuff." Jake nodded. Ryan crashed on the couch. "He's leaving soon." Emily nodded back. She wanted to say more. She wanted to tell him she worried, that she tried, that she never meant to make things harder. But mornings were fragile, and she chose care over confession. "I made coffee," she said instead. "Help yourself." Jake poured a cup and stood beside her. They drank in silence. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. It felt like the start of something, thin but real. Ryan appeared moments later, backpack slung over one shoulder. He gave Emily a small, awkward smile. "Thanks for letting me stay." "You're welcome," Emily said. Ryan looked at Jake, then at the floor. "I'll text you." Jake nodded. Yeah. The door closed behind Ryan, and the house exhaled. Emily watched through the window as Ryan walked down the driveway and disappeared around the corner. Jake set his mug down. "I've got to pack. Dad's picking me up later." "'Kay," Emily said. He hesitated, then spoke again. "I know it's not easy. Me being here? All of it." Emily met his eyes. "It's not easy for any of us. But that doesn't mean it can't get better." Jake nodded once. "I'll try." That was all. He walked away, and Emily felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. She sat at the table after he left, letting the quiet settle. Her phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "Did you get any sleep?" Emily smiled despite herself. "Not much," she typed. "But the night's over. That counts for something," Daniel replied. "How are you really?" Emily paused. She thought about lying, about sending a simple answer. Instead, she chose truth. "Tired, thinking a lot." Daniel responded quickly. "If you want, we can talk later. Coffee, maybe? Just as friends." Emily stared at the screen. The word friends mattered. She didn't feel ready for anything else. But she needed someone who listened. Someone outside the walls of her house. "I'd like that," she typed. She set the phone down and stood. There was a day ahead of her, and she refused to let exhaustion steal it. She cleaned the kitchen, opened windows, let light flood the rooms. Each small action felt like reclaiming space. Upstairs, Jake packed quietly. Emily could hear drawers opening and closing. She wondered what he would remember about this house years from now. She hoped it wouldn't only be tension and distance. By late morning, Mark called. "How was the night?" He asked. Emily hesitated, then chose honesty without blame. "Rough." Jake was struggling. Mark sighed. "I hate being away." "I know," Emily said. "We all do." There was a pause, heavy but not broken. "I'll be home tomorrow." Mark said, "We'll talk, all of us." Emily nodded, even though he couldn't see her. That would be good. After the call, she sat on the couch and let herself feel everything she had pushed aside. The loneliness, the doubt. The quiet hope that things could change if they faced them together. Jake came downstairs with his bag an hour later. Mark's car pulled into the driveway. Jake paused by the door. "Emily," he said. "Yes." "I don't hate you," he said, awkward but sincere. "I just don't always know where I fit." Emily's chest tightened. "I understand more than you think." He nodded, then left. The house was silent again, but this time it didn't feel empty. It felt open. That afternoon, Emily met Daniel at a small cafe downtown. The place was warm, filled with soft music and quiet conversation. Daniel smiled when he saw her, a gentle, familiar smile. "You look tired," he said. "I am," she replied, sitting down. "But I'm okay." They talked about simple things at first. Work, traffic, movies they'd seen. Slowly, the conversation deepened. Emily found herself sharing pieces of her life she hadn't spoken out loud in months. Daniel listened without interrupting, without trying to fix her. "It sounds like you've been holding everyone together," Kay said. "Sometimes I forget to hold myself," Emily admitted. Daniel nodded. "That happens." There was no pressure, no expectation, just understanding. When they parted, Emily felt lighter. Not because her problems were gone, but because she wasn't carrying them alone. She returned home as the sun dipped low. The house greeted her with stillness. She cooked dinner, ate slowly, and sat by the window as evening settled in. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Mark. "Miss you. We'll figure this out." Emily smiled. She believed him. Maybe not completely, but enough to keep trying. That night, when she went to bed, the house stayed quiet. Sleep came easier, not deep but real. As she drifted off, Emily knew one thing had changed for good. She was done pretending everything was fine. And that decision, more than any sleepless night, would shape what came next.